Survey takers in North Central Florida are this week gathering this year's information about the number of homeless people in the area.
TV 20's Ethan Badowski tells us how gathering this information can benefit the homeless population.
Everybody needs to know a lot more about homelessness.
And Alachua County is attempting to learn more about its own homeless population. The county is conducting its annual point-in-time count to get an accurate number of homeless people in the county.
We pick one night a year, usually the end of January, and we have tons of volunteers come out and help us really gauge what the population is right now in our community.
About 50 surveyors help gather information from people who are homeless. Many of them are currently homeless or previously experienced homelessness. I spoke with some of the surveyors here today about why it is so important to gather an accurate count and how it can impact the homeless community in Alachua County.
I will be hoping that this would establish something positive for this community in order to allow those that are homeless, as well as veterans like I myself is, to be able to receive assistance and move forward in a pandemic society.
A lot of the homeless, are in need of transportation. So whenever we go to those certain areas to do the surveys, we get a better idea of where they need to be and where they are and where they can go.
A statement said overall homelessness in the county decreased by 5%. But when asked about numbers,
last year that there were 318 people in Alachua County experiencing homelessness on the streets. The year before was 272.
Organizers say the results will be available later this spring. In Gainesville, Ethan Badowski, TV 20 News.